All right, fire it up. Let's do your thing here, bud. Nobody's any better at this than you are.
That's fine. Take a deep breath.
Give them hell at the end. Good luck to you.
Fighting like hell like we do every week. You are the best here.
Brett, be affirmative. You told me to get on. Info. Ready. Ready. Go slow. Green, green, green. Lock it down, lock it down. 14.
I'm destroyed, and I just got drove through like 6 times on the 14th. What the f is he thinking? That is the stupidest thing I've seen in my career. Literally.
Everything you described is accurate. Haven't even finished the second stage yet. Half the field's wrecked.
Hell yeah!
11 got it. Proud of you there, Matt. Good job, pal. Thanks, man. Good job all day. Great work, my man. Great work.
Keep putting yourself in position, we'll win our share, right? We got one back today, brother. Good job.
10-4, great job, guys.
And welcome back to Racing in the Draft. My name is Mark. Thanks for joining for what appears to be a very interesting weekend in Chicago, Chi-Town. On the streets, literally on the streets in Chicago. Quite interesting to say the least. Quite disappointing that they couldn't get in the Xfinity race fully today, but we will have a full day of racing tomorrow with the second half of the Xfinity race in the morning and then the Cup race in the late afternoon. And for anybody that was hoping to go see the Chainsmokers concert, that got canceled. That kind of stinks because that may have been one of the few, other than the NASCAR race, that would have been the other draw that I would have liked to have seen. But I'm still stuck in Richmond, where it rained here too. So it's just raining everywhere. But it's that time of year. So back to NASCAR. And before we hit the streets of Chicago, let's go back to Nashville, where Ross Chastain finally got himself, I mean, not that the other races weren't legitimate, but the first one was a road course where he kind of practically wrecked 2 cars to get the win at Coda last year and a Talladega win, so a super speedway win. But this year, he finally gets his win at Nashville Super Speedway, which Nashville, the home of Trackhouse. So that was a pretty big to-do for the Trackhouse team and for Ross Chastain. He was impressive all night long, to say the least. So hats off to Ross Chastain. Good to see him win. Good to see him smash that watermelon. If you're just joining in, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Hit me up in the chat. Who do you like for the road course today or tomorrow? Or street course, I guess. Can't say road course. I guess it is still a road, but it's the streets of Chicago. But before that, let's look at the optimal lineups and better finishers in Draftkings from the Nashville race last weekend. We had one dominator, Ross Chastain, leading 99 of 300 laps. So good on Ross. We already discussed him. Had 86.4 points. Started from the pole and won from the pole. So good for Ross. Martin Truex Jr., Denny Hamlin, both finishing very well in second and third. Austin Dillon, I kind of expected Austin Dillon would end up with a pretty decent finish. I expected right there close to 10th, and 13th is what it is. So put him in the optimal lineup with 43 points and being a really good value pick at $6,000. 2 guys that I missed, as you can see, I've now put the thumbs down on these things. AJ Allmendinger, after winning on Saturday, came back with a solid 10th place finish in the Cup Series race on Sunday. So good on AJ. Eric Jones and Legacy Motorsports making me eat my words and finishing in the top 10 and an 8th place finish. Good on them. Maybe they're turning the corner, even though they're not getting any manufacturer support from Chevy or Toyota at this point yet. So good on Eric Jones. Maybe we'll see what this weekend brings to see if that streak can continue, or was this just a one-off for Eric and Legacy Motorsport. Other optimal drivers not in the optimal lineup. As you can see, not a whole lot of Fords in this mix. Christopher Bell, Chase Elliott, Kyle Busch, Kyle Larson, all Chevy and Toyotas until we get to Brad Keselowski finishing in 20th. And William Byron and Corey LaJoy, and then Ryan Preece also in a Ford. So 2 Fords out of 14 of the biggest points getters, at least in Draftkings. And that typically kind of follows along with where they finish in the race, too. So Fords definitely seem to be struggling, at least at Nashville. Will they be able to pick it up this weekend? I don't know. If practice is any indication, I have my doubts. But there are a couple good Ford drivers to keep an eye on, and we'll get to them as we get into the driver-by-driver breakdown. Optimal lineup contest still has Kyle Larson sitting atop by himself with 6 optimal lineups so far out of 17 races. Man, the optimal lineups have just been spread out really, really evenly. I mean, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 drivers that have made the optimal lineup 5 times, and then another 1, 2, 5, 6, 7 drivers who've made the optimal lineup 4 times. So yeah, this optimal lineup challenge is still wide open to pretty much anybody this year. Still haven't quite filled up the chart. We got one more spot left. We fill it up with a not a road course ringer. I guess we call it a street course ringer. We'll see. There are a couple of pretty fast road course / street ringers in this race. But either way, Chicago street race weekend. As you can see, this is the layout. There really is no other better way to show the layout other than by this, what you call this picture, a drawing. But it is, I guess, classified as a road course, even though it's a street course. The length is 2.2 miles, 12 total turns. The race length for tomorrow's race is 100 laps. Dominator points will only equal 70 points, so I do not think we will necessarily need to worry solely about Dominator points or finding a Dominator. I think it may come up naturally with whoever happens to finish, probably, in my opinion, first through third. Will probably end up having what I would consider kind of a Dominator type of day. I think that may come from somebody probably starting in the top 5 is my guess. So I think you got kind of a 1 in 5 shot, in my opinion, of picking that Dominator / really good finisher. What's up, Matt? Thanks for joining in. Yeah, let's secure that bag tomorrow. Yeah, let's do it twice, actually, because I still haven't finished the Xfinity race, which doesn't look great right now. But as I've always said, you don't ever kind of count those chickens until after the final checkered flag falls, because it has a tendency to change even on that last lap. When you think you might be sitting there with the bag of money in your hand, it just snatched away. And sometimes when you think you're having the worst day ever, all of a sudden things turn around. So, but really cool layout. I'm really, really impressed with how well they've laid it out, how well the track is actually kind of raced, at least in practice and qualifying, and the little bit of Xfinity race that we saw. It's really, really fast. It's got some tight turns. It does have some passing zones. I'm actually really, really impressed with how the layout ended up coming out at Charlotte. Track comparisons. I mean, first time NASCAR's ever been on a street course. So there's not much that really compares, but if we're going to compare, we're going to look at some road courses, and we're going to look at some tight configurations. With that being said, Sonoma, Watkins Glen are both fairly tight. Have got some passing zones, but not a lot. The Charlotte Roval is not quite as flat, but Indy road course is very flat, very fast. As you can see, a couple hairpin turns. I don't know if we'll see anything quite like turns 1 at Charlotte Roval and Indy road course for this race. It seems like they kind of get a little bit of a spread out before they hit that first real big turn after they start the race. So, but anything's possible. And the real reason he came is our driver-by-driver breakdown. So let's get into it. As I do every week, I will break down this box in more detail, and then we'll kind of summarize and discuss as the chats come in about other drivers. But Kyle Larson 10,600. And you know what I just noticed? I didn't fix the percentages of my ownership. So today, I can probably do, let's see, this. And I can go down here. Yeah, I've got my ownerships over here, so I'll kind of go through those. So ignore what's up here in the top left, because that is incorrect for this weekend. I literally just got finished at about 9:45 with my tentative lineup list. I always kind of do this video and then go back and tweak it a little bit. I always come across some nugget or whatever, and the chat usually helps me out there and goes, and I go, oh yeah, that's probably not a great call, or oh yeah, I probably need more ownership of that. But either way, Kyle Larson, 10,600. The pricing is very, very fair this week with DraftKings. Lots of opportunities to load up some of the high price guys and have a couple of the middle of the road priced guys, and there's some value out there that I think could easily come into play and be a fairly solid even cash game play. But Kyle Larson, 10,600, starting 7th. 6th, so here's his starting position if you're new to this channel. He is starting in the 7th position, and in this gray area next to his starting position is his practice speeds. So he was 6th in single lap. So his fastest lap out of his total 18 laps, he was 6th out of all the drivers, and everybody made a practice lap. So so he was 6th fastest, and then there were a few people that made 10 lap consecutive averages. That is typically what we look at, but at road courses it's really tough. Even with a 90-minute practice session or a 50-minute practice session, it's tough for them to get much more than about 20 laps in, because they're always kind of making adjustments and tweaking their cars, so they don't really ever make a 10 lap run. So I look at 5 lap consecutive average, so that is when they go out and run 5 consecutive laps without coming to pit road to get adjustments. And Kyle Larson was 3rd on that chart. Then if we look down here, and because this is the first time we have been at Chicago street course, I pulled the kind of the tracks I was talking about. So I pulled Sonoma, Circuits of the America, the Roval, the Indy Road Course, and Watkins Glen as tracks to kind of review or kind of put into the algorithm of what they've done lately on road courses that I think most similarly fits. But Kyle Larson has 1 win out of those 5 races, 1 top 5, 2 top 10s, 3 top 20s. So that's this number here. Then his DraftKings average over those 5 races is 22.3. So an optimal lineup, typically for a road course to hit the optimal lineup, if you kind of get into that high 40, low 50 range, you're going to be real close to being in that optimal lineup. So 22.3 is DraftKings points is not, it's about average to be perfectly honest. We'll see some that are higher, but that's not awful. An 18.6 average finish is not that great, but I think there's only 2 drivers that have single-digit average finishes for those 5 races. Ever since this next-gen car came out, we've seen a lot more parity, except for who wins. Toyota seems to be Toyota and Tyler Reddick have been kind of squashing everybody's hopes and dreams of winning a road course / street course. So I wonder if that trend will continue. Since we did not have a race here before, everybody has a non-applicable NA on the finish of their last race at this track. I've done that before. And then over here is their full road course history. So Kyle Larson has 28 total starts on road courses. And I'm just going to say road courses. I know this is a street course, so you don't have to correct me. But 28 total road course starts for Kyle Larson. He's got 3 total wins, 7 top 5s, 11 top 10s, 19 top 20s, and a 14.5 average finish. So not too shabby. And And I have Kyle Larson. I've got about 25 to 30% ownership. So I'll try to do my best to kind of fill this in. So over here is what I have as their ranking system for this race. Even though we don't have any true real history of a street course or Chicago street course, taking into account the last 10 races on road courses, the last 5 races at the most similar that I can kind of figure out, the last 10 races of this past season, practice speeds and qualifying position, so place differential potential that Kyle Larson has, I kind of plug all that into a spreadsheet and add different values to different things, and it kind of pops out with an 11th place ranking for Kyle Larson. So I've got him about 25 to 30%. I think he'll probably kind of fall into there. He might be more like 22, 21% ownership. If once the race starts and you're looking at ownership in Draftkings. So I'm probably a little bit overweight, being 25 to 30% owned. And I do 40 different total lineups, so you can kind of guesstimate where I'm kind of following for ownership when I say I've got 25 to 30% ownership with Kyle Larson. Next in line here, Martin Truex Jr., 10,400. Starting 11th, he was 4th in single lap, 4th in 5-lap consecutive average, so really good practice speeds. Just missed getting into the final 10. So when they qualified in 2 groups, and the 5 fastest from each qualifying group went for one more segment of qualifying, and those 10 cars battled it out for 1st through 10th. So, and Martin Truex Jr. just missed out on that. But an 11th place starting finish for Martin Truex Jr., who just won at Sonoma. So he's won on a road course lately, and he actually has pretty good practice speeds. I do like some Martin Truex Jr. I've got him in about 30 to 35% of my lineups. Like I said, he does have the win at Sonoma from a couple weeks ago, and his 15.8 average finish over the last 5 road courses. And his total history on road courses, he's got 5 wins, 14 top 5s, 19 top 20s, 19 top 10s, 30 top 20s with a 15.2 average finish over 44 total starts on road courses. Oh, that's a lot. I remember when they used to only race 2 races a year on road courses. This number would barely ever move. Next in line here, we've got Chase Elliott, 10,300, starting 26th and going to a backup car. So he is registered in 26th, but has wrecked his primary car and will have to go to a backup car. He's trying to, I guess, see where, I'm going to mispronounce this guy's name all night long. Gisbergman, I think is how you pronounce it. Yeah, I don't know. Gisbergman. We'll call him Shane. He's driving the 91 for Trackhouse this weekend. He is a Australian stock car racer, pretty much. But he was running really, really fast laps, and Chase Elliott decided he was going to follow him, and followed him and couldn't keep up, and ended up hitting the wall and pretty much destroying his primary car. So Chase Elliott will be going to a backup car. He's not starting too far from the back anyway, so I don't think that's a huge detriment to everything. So I've got 30 to 35% ownership in Chase Elliott. I mean, the issue and problem that I have with Chase Elliott this weekend is, number one, he just hasn't been able to find a groove, and really has not raced all that well this year. There have been pockets where he's been decent, but he's never been really good. We're not seeing the same Chase Elliott we had last year. I don't know if that's because of the 1 race suspension, or if it's because of when he had to miss 6 or 7 weeks because of his broken leg. But even before that happened, Chase didn't seem to be quite as fast as he was last year. And he has not won on a road course in this next gen era. So last year and a half he hasn't been as good on road courses. So I mean, with that being said, I know the algorithm says he's supposed to be number one, but I don't know if I really love that, especially having the 26 starting spot, which he has for DraftKings purposes. That's where he starts, but he will fall to 35th or 36th on the grid before they take the green. But that could end up being a benefit. Yeah. Matt says SVG. Yeah, that's probably the easiest way. Paul, good evening. Mark killed it last week with the 1 in 19. Good for you, dude. That's awesome. I like Truex also, and the 91 car, SVG, Shane, as we will just call him. It's yeah, he's fast. And once I kind of looked up his past history, I had a feeling he was going to be really, really, really good in that car. So we may end up seeing somebody win this race who was not a NASCAR Cup regular. So, but I mean, if you look at what Chase Elliott's still, even with not having as solid of a next gen road course era, he's still got an 8.2 average finish. 6 wins, which is the most, and the 8.2 is the best average finish for 25 total road course starts. So I mean, he's going to catch lightning in the bottle at some point. Maybe this year. I honestly don't know if Chase Elliott ends up. I'm not counting Elliott. Andrew says I'm not counting Elliott out. Creed has been coming through the field and Xfinity. Yeah, but Creed has shown lots of speed so far this year. Chase Elliott, in my opinion, has not shown. Now they're two different series, so I get that. But Chase Elliott doesn't have the same type of speed in comparison to what Sheldon Creed has in Xfinity. That makes sense. You know, you're getting a little. Matt says, I know I'm getting a little ahead, but Jenson Button looks really good too. Oh, yeah. Shane and Jenson Button both look really, really good this weekend. And you have to remember, Jenson Button just came back from driving the, what do they call it? The Hendrick 56 or the NASCAR 56 car over at in France at Le Mans. And so he's got a ton of experience. Plus, he raced Coda. He raced Watkins Glen last year and did fairly well. So Jenson Button, he also raced Sonoma. So Jenson Button's got some pretty good experience in this next gen car at this point. No, not racing. He was at Le Mans for that. Yeah, and Tyler Reddick also. I mean, Tyler Reddick. I mean, we look at in the next gen era, Tyler Reddick is probably the best road course racer out there right now. He leads the way with 3 wins. He won at Coda earlier this year and won Indy road course and last year. Won Coda this year, Indy road course last year. Oh, and he won Road America last year. So yeah, Tyler Reddick. Hey, speak of the devil. There's the 45 right there. 10,100, starting second, 8th in single lap. Oh yeah, so Chase Elliott. I mean, he was 20 before he wrecked his car. He was 20th in single lap and 16th in 5-lap consecutive average. Not like his car was all that fast practice, anyways. So, I mean, going to the back, starting 26. I've got ownership in Chase, so don't get me wrong. I've got 35% ownership. So don't get me wrong. I still think Chase Elliott could easily perform very well. Tyler Reddick, next in line here at 10,100, starting second. Like I said, in the next gen area, he's got 3 wins. And he practiced fairly well. He was 8th in single lap, 5th in 5-lap consecutive average. And in the 5 tracks we're looking at, he's got the 2 wins and a 10th place average finish. Still not the best average finish, though. there is a little bit of a caveat and surprise coming for that here in a few moments. Anybody in the chat know who it might be? See if anybody's done their homework. But Tyler Reddick, so this race, in my opinion, and I was chatting with Family Man earlier about this. I think any of the guys placing between or qualifying between first and fifth all could either win or dominate this race. You get 5th to 25th, and I think we potentially could see a big one. Not as catastrophic. Good job, Matt. Family Man Busher has the best average road course finish. I believe you are correct, but we'll get to his stats in here. I think because of how tight some of these corners are and how blind some of these corners are and the speed that they're carrying through these corners, if we see a somewhat catastrophic wreck in one of these corners involving 2 or 3 cars, we potentially, especially at the beginning of a restart, we could see 8, 9 cars get involved in that. And this next gen car, as solid as it is and as much of a beating as it can take, it doesn't take the beating from a road course very well. It'll go up and nudge a wall on an oval and be perfectly fine. Beyond that, though, I mean, we saw 7, 8 cars today between practice and qualifying that now have to go to the rear to start this race because they've got to go to a backup car or have unapproved adjustments. So, and that was just with 37 guys on the track that weren't racing close together. We didn't see that type of carnage in practice and qualifying for Xfinity. So, a lot of tie rod issues being broken with this car. So, it's going to be interesting. I think place differential is going to be a much bigger deal than we probably think. Next in line, AJ Allmendinger, the road course ringer. Can he be a street course ringer too? Potentially. I mean, he understands how to drive around road courses really, really well. That's gonna. I mean, this in essence is a road course. It just happens to be on a normal daily driving street in Chicago. 9,900 for AJ Allmendinger. Oh yeah, so I meant to tell you, Tyler Reddick. I've got 20 to 25% ownership in Tyler Reddick, and the same thing with AJ Allmendinger, 20-25%. I always like to try to be transparent. I just ran out of time and didn't get a chance to fill this out. But AJ Allmendinger, 9,900, starting 10th, 13th in single lap, 37th in 5-lap consecutive average. Before you go, hey Mark, that's a typo. It's not a typo. If you look on, he made 3 5-lap consecutive averages. Well, every 5th lap, he slowed down to cool off his equipment and then came in and pitted. So, and it was a drastic slowdown. He was running in the 1:29 to 1:30 range, 1 minute 29, 1 minute 30 on all of his practice laps until his 5th one where he was running a minute 50 to minute 55. So he was definitely slowing down and cooling off of his equipment, but it still got scored as 5-lap consecutive average. So in all honesty, we probably could just say AJ Allmendinger didn't have a 5-lap consecutive average, even though if you look at the websites, it says he does. Either way. Because you also have to remember the start-finish line for practice and qualifying was before turn 12. Paul Moss, I think we're going to have a Chicago traffic jam at least once. Some of those place tight, and it's going to race like bumper cars. I absolutely think you're correct, Paul. I expected to see it in Xfinity, and we haven't yet. Now, they've only run 26 laps, and what, 5 of those 26 were only like 20 or 21 green flags. It's been fairly clean. Yeah, I mean, I think we're going to see a traffic jam in one of these corners, and probably turn 4 or turn 7. Yeah, can't remember what's the one where Ross had an issue where he dumped off into the slower area. I think that's turn 6 or 7. Go back up here quick. Turn 5. They carry a ton of speed coming down through 3. They come into 4, and there's this. It just gets really super narrow coming through here, and they've got a huge one of the longest straightaways is on Columbus Drive. So they're looking to really pound the throttle as soon as they come out. This is going to be, in my opinion, turn 4, turn 5 are going to be the trouble areas. The same thing can be said between 7 and 8, but I think the real tricky spot's going to be 4 and 5. Could be wrong, but that's just my opinion. So AJ Allmendinger, don't take his last place 5-lap consecutive average into account there. I mean, for AJ being the road course ringer, I think he just got it because it rhymes with dinger. And I like saying it. I think it's kind of fun. I mean, he's consistent, but I mean, other than his Indy win in 2021, we haven't seen AJ win in the Cup Series on a road course. He's only got 2 total wins out of 34 total starts on road courses. I mean, we could probably say that Chase Elliott's more of the road course ringer, or even Kyle Larson's more of a road course ringer. Both of them have better average finishes. I mean, Tyler Reddick's probably better at road courses than AJ. But I like AJ, so don't get me wrong. He has that potential every time he gets on the track on a road course. Kyle Busch, 9,700, starting 18th. Well, when you practice 19th, you're probably going to qualify somewhere close to there. Practiced 19th on both single lap and 5-lap consecutive average. He did have a little bit of trouble during practice at one point. I think I saw I was busy filling all this stuff out when they were practicing, but I'm not too worried about Kyle Busch starting 18th. I think there's probably a fair amount of place differential upside here. He's got a 10th place average finish over the last 5 road courses that I put into the algorithm, with 3 top 5s, 4 top 10s, 4 top 20s. He's got 3 total wins on road courses. And remember, Tyler Reddick drove this car to 2 wins on road courses last year. So, with that being said, I think Kyle Busch could end up having a pretty decent day. I think if he can get up to 5th, starting 18th, that's all I need. That's anybody needs. Kyle Busch, I have 25 to 30% ownership in Kyle Busch. And he's 5th on my ranking system. So, I do like some Kyle Busch this weekend. And wow, Ross Chastain was really, really slow in practice, and even slower in qualifying. Yeah, I'm not sure what to make of that. He's not a 34th place car. Let's just start there. Do I think he's a mid-20s place car this week? No. Do I think he's a top 10 car? No. I think Ross is probably somewhere in the 12th or 13th or 14th place range, but you're talking about 20-point swing. Even at 9,500, that almost hits for value. Start Killer G. I hate these dumb tracks that aren't not even built for NASCAR. Places like this aren't built for Indy cars. Don't even think about deep place differential because no one can pass. Actually, out of all the road courses, this is one of the better tracks for passing. Number one. Number two, I think because of some of the tight corners, place differential is going to be a huge factor. I mean, you can agree or disagree with me. I'm not that worried about it, but I'm just telling you how I feel and how I see this race turning out. If we have, number one, the car is fragile. These walls are extremely difficult, and they're not difficult. They're hard. They could take a force of 10,000 pounds before they even budge. It's breaking toe links. we saw a ton of carnage happen just in practice, and they weren't even racing next to each other. So I have to disagree with you on place differential. It's not passing differential, it's place differential. So I think there's going to be a decent amount of place differential. But I also think that the top 5 are going to be good enough that they're going to be in the top 5. Pit strategy is big for this race. Yeah, I mean, that's why I kind of like a little bit of William Byron this weekend, even though he wasn't that fast in practice. Larson and Hamlin both said in interviews that there were places to pass. Yeah, I mean, there's legitimately 4 turns that you can pass at this track, where at Watkins Glen and Sonoma, there's only really 2 passing spots on the track. So this road course has 2 more passing places than our normal average road course. So, I mean, I appreciate you tuning in, Shark, but I think place differential is going to be a really, really big deal, especially when you're only talking about 100 laps total. So it's finishing position and place differential are going to be the 2 keys to winning a DraftKings tournament or a cash tournament. So, and we're gonna see some carnage, maybe not catastrophic type carnage, but it's not gonna take a whole lot to mess these cars up. But back to this, I appreciate you tuning in. Thank you. If you got more questions, love to hear it. I'd love to debate the thought process, and anybody in the chat that wants to tune in or chime in, please do. But yeah, Ross Chastain starting 34th. I mean, just naturally, Ross is not a bad road course racer. Can he go out and win this race? Sure, any of these guys can. Do I think he's top 10 this weekend? Probably not. I think he's, like I said, I think he's probably going to be 13th, 14th. But that's enough to put you probably in the optimal lineup, or at least win cash tournaments. So there's a ton of cash plays this weekend. Probably more cash plays than there are tournament plays this week. And William Byron's probably not one of them. He's kind of with Chase Elliott, starting 22nd, and will have to go to a backup car, which will put him at the rear of the field. So he will be starting 33rd, 34th. There's a ton of cars that are going to the back. 9,300, 14th in single lap, 7th and 5th 5-lap consecutive average, 17.6 average finish, 21.7 DraftKings average over the 5 races. He's only got 1 top 5 on road courses. Starting 22nd. I mean, the best part about William Byron is his pit crew this weekend, and starting from the rear. What do I have in William Byron? 20 to 25% ownership of William Byron. And I think that may actually end up being a little too high. I don't think I love the William Byron play as much as I did when I first did lineup. So I may be adjusting some William Byron, probably closer to 15 to 20% ownership. Next in line here is Christopher Bell at 9,100, and he was really fast in qualifying. As we see, he is starting 4th, and he was 5th in single lap in practice and 15th in 5-lap consecutive average. Not bad, a little bit of fall off there, but that could have easily been the same thing as AJ, where he was cooling down that last lap before he came in. He does have 1 win out of the 5 road courses that I put into the algorithm. 12.2 average finish. He's got a total of 2 road course wins in his 16 total starts, with a 15.8 average finish. Starting 4th is probably maybe the only concern I have with Christopher Bell, but potentially not. I don't love or don't hate the Christopher Bell play. I've got him in 10 to 15%. I just don't really love the starting spot, but he probably is an okay play. Like I said, I don't really love it and don't hate it. So I'm not spending a lot of time with Christopher Bell. I think he's kind of a coin flip play, in my opinion. Billy Man says, I think certain cars will be able to move through the field and some won't. Chase, for example, is totally capable of moving through the field in a 100-lap race. Yes, I absolutely agree. He has that capability, but he's just been slightly off. I mean, it's kind of like Chase Briscoe. I think both the chases are just there's an issue going on with both chases right now, Briscoe and Elliott. I don't know what it is, but they just are struggling right now. And when we see guys that are struggling, and until they turn that corner, continue to struggle, and it's tough play. Um, Daniel Suarez, 8,900. He had moments where he looked really, really good at practice and qualifying, and then he had moments where he didn't look good. So a little inconsistency in practice, and qualifying. But he got the fifth place starting spot. Okay, good. He was 11th in single lap, 25th 5 lap consecutive average. I'm not that overly concerned about 5 lap consecutive average because, like I said, when I looked at, let me see if I can pull this up because it's actually a pretty cool site that I found on Twitter. Um, I needed to grab a drink anyways. Say this to my favorites. But it shows all of the lap speeds for all of the drivers practice. Oh, here it is. I'll cut practice. We'll pull this up here. This shows everybody's lap speed. So we talked about AJ Allmendinger, and he was 37th in 5 lap consecutive average. So if you can see this here, here's all. I don't even know if you can see this, and I'm not sure how I can zoom. If I can zoom in on it or not. Yeah. So AJ Allmendinger. I mean, and this is in seconds. So 96 second lap, 94, 95, 92, 95. So that was his first run out. Get it. So then on his second, there's one. Nope, didn't do a 5 lap there. 1, 2, 3. Nope, didn't do it there. 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, and on his fifth lap, did a 225-second lap. So like I said, I'm not overly concerned. 4 laps there. No, 318. Yeah, so I mean, as you see, he got scored with a 5 lap consecutive average here, but this last lap was really slow. Who else was? Who were we just talking about? Daniel Suarez. Oh yeah. So if we look at Suarez, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I mean, that was his first 5 laps. So probably maybe throw those out. But he was 92, 92, 92, 92. So not great, not bad there. Came in and did some adjustments. Never did a 5 lap there. Only got 4 laps there. And never made another 5 lap consecutive average. So, like I said, it's kind of interesting to look at. It gets a little bit better when you're looking at when they've got 40, 50, 60 laps of average. Let's see. I sneakily like Suarez tomorrow. I think he has a great tournament play. Yeah, I think he's gonna get overlooked starting that far up. And he's won road course. He won Sonoma last year, so he's not a bad road course racer, and he was actually pretty quick on a couple of his laps. I mean, this track's tricky. I don't have any data really to go off of. I mean, here we are talking about Michael McDowell now at 8,700. He's starting 6th. He was 15th in single lap, 24th in 5 lap consecutive average, and qualified 6th. I mean, Suarez is about in the same spot. So I could see the argument for both Michael McDowell and Suarez. And Michael McDowell, in my opinion, is just as good of a road course racer as Suarez, if not potentially better. So, I mean, other than the win for Suarez at Sonoma last year, their stats are pretty similar. And they're priced about the same. So I don't mind either one of them. I've got them in 10 to 15% of my lineups equally. So it's a coin flip on if you had to choose between the two of them. Next in line here, and here's the winner, Chris Buescher. Good job, Matt, for for doing your homework before you came to the show tonight. 8,500, starting 15th, 18th in single lap, 12th in 5-lap consecutive average. In the last 5 of these road courses, he has finished in the top 10 for all of them. He's got a 47.2 average for DraftKings and a 7.4 average finish over the last 5 races. He keeps putting these numbers down. He's going to get himself a road course win. Could come as early as tomorrow. I didn't see any practice or qualifying speeds that makes me think that that's the case. But maybe. Not real sure. Looks like my video is really behind. I don't know if you guys are seeing that or not. I guess it's kind of hard for you to tell on how delayed or not delayed this is. But either way, Chris Buescher starting 15th. There's definitely place differential possibilities with Chris Buescher. Problem is, I think he may end up getting owned pretty heavily. So take that with a little bit of grain of salt because of these averages. I've got him in 20 to 25% of my lineup. So, next in line here, Austin Cindric at $8,400, starting 31st. But that's where you practice, so that's probably where you should be starting. 31st on single lap, 30th on 5-lap consecutive average. And he was really good on road courses in Xfinity Series. So far, he hasn't done a whole lot in the Cup Series, at least over the course of a full race. He's had moments where he's had pretty good speed, one being Coda 2 years ago. But other than that, there's definitely place differential with Austin. He did hit the wall and had some issues in practice. I don't remember seeing any indication that he was going to have to go to a backup car or tail end, but it really doesn't matter. He's starting 31st already. So if he happens to have to make adjustments and go to the rear, he's not going far. Andrew B, I like Cindric if there's rain. Yeah, I could see that. But rain is the great equalizer on road courses for autosports. I mean, that's the case in every form of autosports on a road course, from Indy to Formula One to NASCAR to motorcycle racing to all of it. Rain is the absolute equalizer. I think it's more because it becomes a wild card. But yeah, I mean, I don't mind the Austin Cindric play at all. I'm sitting at 15 to 20% ownership of Austin Cindric. I forgot the race in rain, but he was really good. You forgot the race in the rain. You talking about when they raced at Coda in the monsoon? I don't think he qualified as rain anymore. That was just a flat out monsoon, if that's the race you're talking about. But Austin Cindric is a very good road course racer. We just haven't seen it in the Cup Series yet. All right, next in line here, Joey Logano, the guy that loves to race inaugural events. Let's just put it there. Even though Kyle Larson showed him up at North Wilkesboro earlier this year. But Joey Logano, 8,200, starting 9th. Practice speeds were 23rd and 20th, and you're driving a Ford. The only Fords I like are Michael McDowell and Chris Buescher. I mean, at least to finish really well. I think Austin Cindric, if he gets up to top 15, that's worth it in DraftKings. Joey Logano starting 9th, finishing 9th doesn't do me any good in DraftKings. So I do like Austin Cindric over Joey Logano because of the place differential, but I don't love the Joey Logano play. I've only got him in 5 to 10% of my lineups. So, yeah, it was Coda, the monsoon, where they pretty much decided that they would never race in downpour rain again, which is probably smart. Yeah, the problem is, unless you emailed it to me, Matt, I can't really pull it off my phone, I don't think. The lap average chart, since you color coded one. Oh, okay. Did you send it to my email, Matt? But either way. Oops, didn't talk about Denny Hamlin, who's the pole sitter. But he was really, really fast in practice. I am shocked and amazed at how fast Denny Hamlin was in practice. Okay, cool. I'll pull that up real quick. Just because you took the time to email me. Oh, yeah. So you're pulling that from iFantasy, iFantasyRace.com. And he is actually pulling that from NASCAR Damas. They're I've been in a chat with them before. They're actually pretty good friends, but this is what he's talking about. So, and it's kind of a color coded chart on everybody's speeds, minimum, maximums, averages, all that fun stuff. It's lots of really, really good information. So, if you're ever kind of wondering, and it's iFantasyRace.com. A lot of great content, a lot of data. And he's actually a really good follow on Twitter. So be careful with Twitter right now because you'll only like 60 people or something. I don't know, or 600 tweets, and Elon Musk decides to shut you down. Denny Hamlin. Wow, was Denny Hamlin fast in practice? He was really fast in qualifying. I'm still shocked at how fast he was. Denny Hamlin, I have 10 to 15% ownership in the pole sitter. I really don't know what to do with Denny Hamlin. To be bluntly honest with everybody that's watching, I really don't know. He easily could go out and dominate the entire race. He was that fast in practice, but he could do the same thing he did at Sonoma and totally screwed up. I mean, if you remember at Sonoma, he led the first 30 laps, 40 laps, and then on a pit cycle got himself into trouble and his day was done. So he is showing that he has really, really, really good speed on road courses lately, and he definitely attributed that to 2311 and the Toyotas being so much better, but 2311 and I think Tyler Reddick is probably really helping him out. So, can he pull it off for 100 laps? Don't know. It's a risky play starting from the pole at any track at any time. Coin flip. What's the chat think? Do you guys think that Denny Hamlin's a good tournament play? I think he's probably decent for cash. He just scares me for tournaments. I don't know. I mean, if he had Chase Elliott's numbers and pulled that type of speed off in qualifying, it'd be a shoo-in. I'd probably have 50% ownership in him. But instead, I'm only going to have 10 to 15%. He could embarrass me. He could be one of my thumbs down for next week. But like I said, I don't like the pole sitter. Just don't think of Denny Hamlin as a dominant road course racer. Especially this teammate, I don't know, his employee, Tyler Reddick, starting on the outside of him. Who doesn't have a... No, he does have a win. He got the win at Coda earlier this year, so both of them have a win. I don't know. I don't know what to do with... If I fade him in Draftkings, I'll place a hedge bet. Yeah, I mean, that's probably not a bad play. Do you hedge him to win or just have a top 3? That's my question, Andrew. But that's probably not a bad play. And then I playing probably too much tournaments. I'd have to really hedge my bet pretty heavily. To win. Okay. Yeah, what is Hamlin right now? Put it up earlier. Hamlin is plus 5.5 or plus 550. All right. I mean, that's not bad. You can hedge your bet pretty quickly on that. But that's only to win. I never love to take just the win. I like the top 3 or the top 5 bets. if I place a bet. Was 6.5 on FanDuel. Okay, I'm looking at DraftKings. That's typically all I ever really look at. I don't really do a whole lot of betting, straight up bets. I'll do some prop bets and top 3 and top 5 type bets. Alex Bowman, 7,800, starting 13th, was 27th in single lap, 13th in 5 lap average. Okay. Bowman's not a bad road course racer. He's not a great road course racer. He's not somebody. I mean, he was really good at Coda. I'm not sure this correlates very well with Coda. He's pretty consistent. I think he probably is a pretty safe cash play. I just don't know if I love him for tournaments. How much Alex Bowman do I have? Yeah, I've only got 5 to 10% ownership in Alex Bowman. That's not saying a whole lot. I don't know. I can see taking him. I can see not taking him. Kind of that middle of the road guy you don't really ever know what to do with. I don't know what to do with Alex Bowman. Just to be bluntly honest. His practice speeds were okay. If there's some attrition and he's not involved, then ends up being a pretty safe play. Ryan Blaney, $7,700, starting 17th, 16th in the single lap, 11th in 5 lap consecutive average. Really, Prink? He really that hero courses lately? No way. Blaney. This really has no top 20s at 5 races. Fascinating. Something not turn over right? That just doesn't seem right. In Blaney. I just have to check this. They finished 31st at Sonoma. Finished 21st at Coda. 26th at Charlotte. 24th at Watkins Glen. And 20. Wow, he doesn't have a top 20 in these 5 courses. Huh. This is why I love to do this, because I fact check myself as I'm going. Because all of a sudden I see this and didn't realize that was the case. All right, I've only got 5 to 10% ownership in Ryan Blaney. I think he's just had bad luck. Good lord, that's really bad luck. But yeah, no top 20s in the last 5 of these road courses. Ugh, 25.6 average finish. That's like Bubba Wallace bad. On road courses. 7,700. Yeah, I don't know what to do with Ryan Blaney. I thought he was doing a little better than that. Hamlin being 8,000. DraftKings, what makes it worth at least 50 lineups? If he was his normal 10,000, then it would be more risky. Yeah, I could see him as an $8,000 play, not being all that bad. And my whole opinion is I didn't when I was making my lineups, I didn't have a whole lot of trouble of fitting in to the $5,000 cap. In fact, there were quite a few lineups where I ended up having a couple $1,000 left over. So the pricing isn't that big of a deal this weekend. Of course, you can overspend. But I think there was enough value options out there that you didn't have to. So that being said, total pricing really didn't really matter. I look at it more of, is it a good play? And I just don't know if Denny Hamlin's a good play. If you're trying to talk me into having Ryan Blaney starting from the pole with never having a top 20 in the last 5 road courses, I'd be like, yeah, no, I'll pass. So, Shane Van Gisbergen. Gisbergen. I think that's how you say it? I don't know. I could barely say Shane correctly, much less Shane Van Gisbergen. But gaw, was he fast in practice and qualifying. First in single lap, 9th in 5 lap consecutive average, did a total of 21 laps and starting from 3rd. SVG is the only guy I know of heel toe shift. Oh, absolutely. There's nobody else in the field that's heel toe shifting. Maybe Jensen Button. And that's a big maybe. I mean, you're talking about an old school, true road course racer with Shane. That footwork on NBC's coverage was so pretty to watch. That was really really cool. I literally could watch a split screen of that and him driving, him in like the regular shot of the car the entire race, and I would be perfectly happy. I mean, I'm also sitting in a racing rig, so I suck at road courses. I do pretty good at ovals, but I suck at road courses. So watching somebody do heel toe shifting was awesome. Yeah, the Kiwi is a wheel man. What was Marcus Ambrose was the other Aussie that came over and showed everybody how to road course race. Shane is very very similar to a Marcus Ambrose. If anybody, I might be dating myself here. Yeah, I think Shane Ving SVG definitely has a shot. I mean, he jumped up to 5th on the betting chart. I mean, he's only plus 1,000. For somebody who is not a NASCAR regular to jump up to plus 1,000, that's insane. I mean, Jensen Button, who's done this a couple of times, is plus 4,500. So yeah, the betting world definitely got impressed with Shane after his performance today in practice and qualifying. Kevin Harvick, 7,500. I almost think Kevin Harvick hit that wall on purpose. I think he was like, my car is so bad that I have to go get the backup car. So he just put it in the wall. Saying that in jest. But, oh my God. He was 33rd in single lap and 29th in 5-lap consecutive average, and just hit the wall. And it's about that nobody else had hit the wall yet. I was like, what was that? And then I looked at his practice speeds and I was like, oh, he just wants the backup car. Starting 35th, there's a ton of place differential upside in Kevin Harvick. Between Kevin Harvick, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., and who else was it? Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Justin Haley, Ross Chastain, and Kevin Harvick. Literally 3, if not all 4 of them, may be the optimal lineup. Harvick said he was going to go to the backup anyways, whether he wrecked it or not. I didn't hear that, but yeah, they were awful in practice. 33rd in single lap and 29th for 5-lap consecutive average. That's awful for somebody who's got a 14.2 average finish on road courses in the last 5. Yeah, I don't blame him. I probably would have wrecked that car too and been like, just throw that thing into Lake Michigan and let me have something different. Ty Gibbs next in line here. Yeah, Kevin Harvick's going to be shooing. I mean, if he's not, he's going to be top 5 owned though. That's going to be the only problem. Is he and Ricky and Justin Haley and Ross Chastain are all going to be 35 to 40% owned across the board. The same thing happened at Road America when, I can't remember who all it was at Road America that missed qualifying. It was Chase Elliott. Kyle Busch wrecked his car, so he went to a backup. It was like 4 or 5 guys that all started from the back, and it was just like plug and play those 4, and then you just literally put a handful of guys that you thought might do well in the last 2 spots. I ended up making really good money that weekend. Same thing's happening here. I mean, Ross is not a 34th place driver. Kevin Harvick's not a 35th place driver. Kevin Harvick's not a 35th place. Ricky Stenhouse is not a 36. I mean, out of the lot, Justin Haley starting 37th. Heck, we've seen him finish top 15 at road courses a couple of times. So Ty Gibbs, I mean, he's in a Toyota. He was 9th in single lap, 6th in 5-lap consecutive average. Just saying, one of these races this year, Ty Gibbs is gonna win. Mark my words. I'll eat my words if I'm wrong, but I'm not sure this weekend's the weekend for it. But could be. He's a really good road course racer. We're an hour and 5 in, so we'll start kind of getting through this here. Brad Keselowski, 7,200. 10th in single lap, 10th in 5-lap consecutive average, starting 20th, driving a Ford. I mean, out of all the Fords, Brad and Chris Buescher are probably the two best Ford cars consistently in the field right now, especially on road courses. Starting 20th, I mean, there's room for some PD upside potential here with Brad. I have, oops, I changed my spot here. Let's see. I've got Brad in only 5 to 10%. I may end up having a little bit more Brad. Yeah, I can see having a little bit more Brad Keselowski. The problem is being in the Ford kind of scares me. And Brad sometimes can be a little aggressive. And this track, I think, will bite aggression. It doesn't seem to love it. At least what I saw in practice, whenever somebody really, really pushed the envelope, it kind of hurt them. Right. Chase Briscoe, $7,000. Talk about somebody who's just fallen off the face of the earth. Chase Briscoe. What happened to that guy the last few weeks? At least his practice speeds this week look pretty good. 22nd in single lap, 17th in 5-lap consecutive average. But he hasn't shown us anything on road courses. I mean, 14 total starts on road courses with only 3 top 10s. In the last 5, it's only got 1 top 10. 20.2 average finish. I don't, he's driving a Ford. I don't love the Chase Briscoe play. Starting 16th. I'd rather take Brad for $200 more, starting 4 spots further back. Brad has not been great this year, but he's been a heck of a lot better than Chase Briscoe. So, with that being said, I don't know. Bubba Wallace, 6,900. Chi-Town's favorite pick of the week, Bubba Wallace. He will have a huge fan contingency this week. But that may end up being a little bit too much pressure. I'm not expecting much from Bubba Wallace other than he could get to 10th. I think that's a good day on a road course for him. I mean, when you're averaging a 20.2 average finish on road courses in the last 5 and a 25.6 over 22 races, and you went out and practiced 25th and 18th in 5-lap consecutive average, starting 14th. Yeah, I don't love the Bubba Wallace play. I don't like the Chase Briscoe play. I don't like the Brad play. So who are we going to? We'll go to Jenson Button here. 6,800. He's now got enough experience in this car, plus 24 hours at Le Mans, in a very similar. I know it wasn't the same, but a very similar. It was a NASCAR next-gen car. Starting 8th, he was 3rd in single lap, 8th in 5-lap consecutive average. He could easily get himself a top 10. He's been trending that way for the last few road courses anyways. I do like the Jenson Button play, just like I like the Shane Van play. So I'll take Jenson Button over the 3 guys up here. Enrique Stenhouse Jr. coming from 36th in a backup car, 6,600. I mean, his practice speeds were crud, but hit the wall too. So I do like the Ricky Stenhouse Jr. play, starting 36th. We've already talked about that. Don't need to beat that horse to death. He can't fall any further than 1 spot, and I'm sure there are going to be plenty of guys that will take that spot. Eric Almirola, 6,500. Eric is not that good of a road course racer. As we can see in the last 5, he's only got 1 top 20. 28.0 average finish. Went out and practiced 29th to 27th and starting 24th in a Ford. Nope, no interest. Bypassing Eric Almirola. That may be one that bites me. Same thing with his teammate Ryan Preece. Now, our sample size with Ryan Preece isn't much better, but in 13 total road course starts, he's only got 1 top 10 and 5 top 20s with a 24.2 average finish. Went out in practice 24th and 21st in 5 lap consecutive average. The only plus is you're starting 28th. The problem is you got a fair amount of cars that are better than Ryan Preece on road courses starting behind you. So that makes me think that you're going to go backwards. Does Eric Jones and Legacy Motorsports continue to make the turn in the right direction? I don't know. I think last week was a track that Eric Jones likes, and was fairly good at conserving tires. Nothing in practice showed me that Eric Jones has speed for this track. 28th in single lap, 33rd in 5 lap consecutive average, and he only qualified 21st. Don't think there's enough PD upside for me to play much of Eric Jones this week. As much as I'd like for Eric Jones and the 43 car to do well. It could come back to bite me, just like the Brian Preece and Eric Almirola that I'm not interested in playing. I'm not interested in playing Eric Jones this week either. I think it's a good finish if he goes out and gets 17th. I think that's good for the team, but that's not good for Draftkings. So, not a whole lot of interest with Eric Jones. Where I will take is an Austin Dillon starting 29th when practice speeds were better than that. They weren't great. They were better, 17th and 22nd. He's got a 21.8 average finish, which I know is not very good, but starting 29th, if you can just get a little bit above your average at 5,900, you'll hit for value. And I think he can. So I've got some ownership in Austin Dillon. I've got him in 10 to 15% of my lineups. I'm not real heavy. I am pretty heavily on Justin Haley. Justin Haley, you gotta remember, Justin Haley has literally been being taught by one of the best road course racers in NASCAR, with AJ Allmendinger as a team. Starting 37th, you have nowhere to go but up. It's also going to be 45 to 50% owned. Plain and simple. 5,800 is super cheap when you've got a 16.4 average finish over the last 5 races and a 22.3 over 15. And those last 5 is when AJ started working with him. So there's nowhere to go but up with Justin Haley. Even if he goes out and just gets to 22nd at 5,800, that's probably enough. So, yeah, the problem is he's going to be 50% owned. So, not being very contrarian by playing him. Talk about somebody who was fast. Holy smoke, Corey LaJoie. I think was it Jensen Button was on his podcast this week? I didn't get a chance to listen to it. Maybe I'll listen to it tomorrow. But wow, Corey was fast in practice. 5,700, 7th in single lap, 2nd in 5 lap consecutive average. 17.6 average finish on road courses. Corey LaJoie's been. I almost have to think that this is for real. The problem is I don't know if Corey LaJoie goes and gets a top 10. Starting 19th, I need Corey LaJoie to go get a top 10. I wish Corey LaJoie was starting 29th and had those types of speed, or he was going to a backup car or something. Starting 19th, it's not going to take a whole lot for him to hit for value. And I understand that. Currently I've only got him in 5% of my lineups. I think it's because of the starting lineup just kind of makes me a little nervous. I don't really know what to do with Corey LaJoie. I don't think there's enough place differential upside for it to be a real win-win. So I'm not real sure. Harrison Burton starting 32nd. 37th in single lap, 36th in 5 lap consecutive average. That's really slow. You're talking about beating Josh Bilicki in practice. That's really slow. 32nd qualifying. And you got a lot of guys that are a lot faster behind you. I don't love the Harrison Burton play. I think Harrison Burton might be on the hot seat. I understand that you're a your last name's Burton, but that's only going to carry you so far. Um, I think if we don't start to see a turnaround in Harrison Burton soon, I mean, he's had a couple of days where he's had a couple of races where he's done pretty well, but he needs to have some real consistency through the end of this season. I mean, I'm sure the 21 team is probably kicking themselves in the backside for getting rid of Matt DiBenedetto. Who, not saying he was any better, but you didn't help yourself at all by getting Harrison Burton at this point. Noah Gragson. Wow, maybe the hit in the head helped you out. Noah, 12th in single lap, 32nd in 5 lap. I'm not worried about the 5 lap consecutive average because we've already talked about that. But starting 23rd and he was 12th in single lap. His actually qualifying laps looked pretty good. But you're driving for legacy. That scares me. And you just don't seem to have horseshoe or a rabbit's foot anywhere close to you this year. So I'm passing on Noah Gragson, even though I really would like to see him have a good race. So I'll pass on the Noah Gragson starting 23rd. Todd Gillen starting 25th. Yeah, I don't love the Todd Gillen play as much as he was having such a good run up till about 2 or 3 weeks ago. All of a sudden we had the break, and it just seems like it was right before the break he started to have a little bit of issues. I think it's inconsistency of not being in that 38 car week in and week out. I just don't think there's enough room place differential wise to play the Todd Gillen play. Andy Lally, I just have no interest. He looked like absolute crud at Sonoma. The car was super, super slow. Just no interest in Andy Lally. Same thing with Josh Bilicki. Just don't really have any interest, especially starting 27th when your practice speeds were 36th and 34th, and you're going to have a ton of guys that are way better than he is with better equipment coming from behind. Ty Dillon starting 33rd. Practice speeds were not great. 34th in single lap, 23rd in 5 lap consecutive average. Okay. 27.4 average finish on road courses lately. Are driving a Chicago White Sox car. I'm a Yankees fan, so I really don't care about that, but it is cool looking paint scheme. And you're racing in Chicago. Probably going to have half the town that loves you and half the town that hates you. So either way, I think it's kind of cool. Starting 33rd, there's a place differential upside potential here with Ty. I don't know, 4,800. I don't mind the play at 4,800. It does give you some room up top if you decide to go that route. So I could see the love or hate on the Ty. I think it's a fairly safe play. And especially because he is so cheap, he may get overlooked. People might be like, oh, I ain't touching 4,800. Why am I going to take the last place guy? I never fixed this, so we're not even going to look at that. I can pull it up. Second. All right. Chase Elliott. So highest owned guys that I think are going to be highly owned: Chase Elliott, William Byron, Ross Chastain, Kevin Harvick, Ricky Stenhouse, Justin Haley are all going to be super heavily owned. Start up front and finish up front. I think the Tyler Reddick, Christopher Bell, Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin play are all in the ballpark. Don't love the Josh Bilicki play. In fact, I don't really like much of anything that's over here. So I'm staying away from Suarez, Andy Lally, Ty Gibbs, Harrison Burton, Eric Almirola. Corey LaJoyce is starting too far up. I think he can probably get it top 20. I don't think he gets past the top 10. And I don't think 9 spots is enough, even at 5,700, to really call it value. The problem is the guys that I really think are going to do well, you're just going to have to find. Like, I think maybe the Jenson Button is probably a pretty good play that might get overlooked. I mean, heck, this week AJ may even get overlooked. Shane SVG might. I just don't know if a lot of the real true diehard DraftKings guys are going to take the bait on playing Shane. I don't even know if I'm taking the bait on Shane. It's kind of it's real easy to pull a Kevin Harvick, a Ricky Stenhouse, a Justin Haley, a potentially an Austin Cindric, and then go out and put Tyler Reddick and maybe an SVJ and go lineup. But I think that's going to be probably pretty heavily owned that way. So playing tournaments, you gotta find something contrarian. I mean, thinking Alex Bowman is a sneaky play. I mean, Ryan Blaney, who hasn't had a top 20, may be a sneaky play. What kind of equipment is Button in? He's in the 15 Rick Ware car, but he has been in that car the last few times they have raced. So, Button was not car. I can't remember who was in the 15 car at Sonoma. Wasn't Balicki. I don't think it was Lally. Good luck to everyone. Hope. Yeah, are you? We're now an hour and 20 in. Are you done, Matt? But I mean, Button finished 18th at Coda. Rick Ware equipment scares you? I mean, Rick Ware's equipment doesn't really ever seem to have that big of an issue because they don't ever really push it. That's the issue. But ever since they hired, who did Rick Ware Rick Ware hired somebody to head up the competition. And ever since then they have started to turn a little bit of a corner. But either way, yeah, I mean I could see fading off of Benson or Jensen Button. I don't know. This weekend's actually a little tougher than it seems. It looks like it's an easy plug and play, but it's not. You're gonna have to find, especially if you're playing tournaments, you're gonna have to find something that nobody else is playing. You got to find that diamond in the rough. Matt, if you are leaving, have a great night. Good luck. Let me know tomorrow how things are going. But if you're still here, cool. Stay to the end. We're almost done. We're going to look at some optimal lineups from other road courses. As we can see from Sonoma, the worst place starting spot was 22nd. Made it up to 13th. There wasn't a whole lot. I don't think, any attrition really in qualifying. So we didn't have any guys that were really good, that were starting further in the back. $500 left over. We had 3-place differential, 1 nominator. Sonoma's a place there's really only 2 spots on the track to pass. Really only 1. But Watkins Glen from last year, we had no dominators, 4-place differentials. So, I mean, the thing is, we're not going to have stage breaks. So just like at Sonoma, we didn't have a stage break, so it was much easier to have that dominator. And with only 100 laps, it's tough to get to a true dominator. But 3 guys at Watkins Glen last year finished in the top 5. Everybody else finished almost top 10. And Eric Jones, who was having Christopher Bell was an easy plug and play. Started 38th and finished 8th. That's what I'm saying. I mean, these guys that are starting 37, 36, 35th, it's a fairly easy play. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. starting 38th at Indy Road Course, finished 13th, made the optimal lineup over here. That says very tough calls all the way across the board on Draftkings. Yeah, I mean, this weekend's actually, when I first saw it, I was like, oh, this should be pretty easy. And now that I've built the lineups once, and watched practice and watched a little bit of the Xfinity race, where I thought this was going to be one thing, it's turning out to be maybe a little bit different. But after last week, maybe the Xfinity guys are being a little bit cautious instead of wrecking half the field on the first 2 restarts in the first 5 laps. The new track is going to be green after the rain. Oh, I don't know. This is a kind of a tough weekend. Yeah, I mean, can I not say that I have absolutely just almost a super speedway lineup where I just literally took everybody that was in the back of the field. Just I'll hope and pray that Denny Hamlin goes into turn 1 and takes out the first half of the field, and then I win. I don't want that to happen. I want to see a good race, but I mean that's sometimes why we throw those weird ones there. So yeah, I had to take since there was no, when I made this little thumbnail, there was no pre-course yet. There was no real even layout yet, so I had to steal the one from iRacing. Either way, almost an hour and a half in at this point. Oh, and the iRacing's over anyways in the back. That's usually I put the last race from the track in, and all it was the iRace from Wednesday, which didn't have a whole lot of place differential. But they also don't throw cautions in iRacing. So a little bit different. They do it more traditional road course style racing. But either way, I appreciate everybody tuning in. 42, that's a good number this time. Got 6 people currently watching. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Appreciate you tuning in. Good luck. If you want to hit me up for Discord, or if you have any questions, coin flip on whether my son has a baseball tournament tomorrow. It rained this afternoon, so sometimes they call office tournaments and sometimes they don't. So we're getting down towards the end. Here in a couple weeks, I'll be headed to Cooperstown for a week-long tournament with him. So one of these times I will be from a remote location in Upper New York. But either way, I appreciate you tuning in. Good luck tomorrow. Hopefully they get this full race in, because they don't have street lights, or they don't have lights for the course, and they don't get the race in on Sunday. I'm not sure they get the race in because they've got to have the roads back open for Monday for work. So they've got to get the race in tomorrow. It's going to be interesting. So hopefully they don't have a real wet day tomorrow, or at least monsoonal type, or lightning seems to be the big issue. But either way, good luck, and we will see you next Saturday night. I don't even know where they go next week. I don't know. Not worried about it. I'm worried about trying to figure out my lineups for this week. Good luck this week. Enjoy. Make a lot of money. Let me know if you do hit. I appreciate everybody tuning in. We will talk to you next week. Have a good one. Bye.
Get a good deep breath. Get ready to roll here. Only about one thing tonight, getting the W's, so got to be around at the end to do that. Get ready to roll tonight, boys. Let's go have some fun.
Don't get me any more fired up than I already am.
All the way to the checkered. You're fine. Nobody's got to run. Checker time, baby!
Hell yeah!
Proud of you there, Matt. Good job, pal. Thanks, man. Good job all day. Great work, my man. Great work. Keep putting yourself in position. We'll win our share, right? We got one back today, brother. Good job.
Great job, guys.
Excellent work, my man. Excellent work. Thank you.
Man, that's awesome. Set out with a goal, we got it here, bud. Thank you very much.
Really proud of you, man. Drove your butt off tonight. We had the best car here, bud.
Probably killed our deal there. Just feel like I gave one away. Yeah, boys! Way to rebound! Great job!
Great job, bud. Really good job. Appreciate you hanging in there with us all weekend.
What a weekend. Good job. Thank you.